Hey there, today I'm going to talk about comparisons of equality. And in Georgia View, you can find this chart, which are the constructions in Spanish for how we're going to write our sentences to show when something is of equal value. So, for example, I might say that a noun, for example, is the same as something else. So I might have, I have as many shoes as my daughter. I might be comparing how somebody does something. So I run as much as my daughter. I might also be comparing a description of somebody, saying somebody is as pretty as this other person. So Sarah is as pretty as Annabelle. I also might be comparing how somebody, how they do something. So these are ly words in English, like quickly, quietly, politely. So she speaks as quietly as so and so or something. So there you are comparing how the person does something. So it's a little bit different than your verb. It is describing a verb, but it's how the verb is done, right? So it's not, you're not just comparing the action, you're comparing how the action is done with an ly. So she runs as much as is this one up here, but she runs as quickly as is this one here. Notice we're comparing how somebody does something as an adverb. Remember that defines a verb. Okay, so let's back up for a second here. Again, you can find this chart in Georgia View. And I'm going to really minimize that, and we're going to move it over here. I know that's really small. Let's go about right there. Maybe you can see it. All right, so let's do a couple examples. Let's start with the nouns. And we are comparing how many things somebody has, right? Nouns are things, people, place, and things. So she has as many books as Lisa. Let's just say, let's compare Sarah and Lisa. So Sarah has, we have to have a verb. Usually we're using the verb tener here. We're showing how many things somebody has, or I can't think of another example right now, but anyway, you're going to conjugate your verb depending on who your subject is. So Sarah tiene, and then tanto, tanta, tantos, or tantas. And this is why I wanted to have this moved out of the way, because now it's, give me just a second. Let's enlarge that and minimize this. Okay. All right. Let me center us again. Sorry, hope you're not having a headache by now or getting dizzy. So Sarah has as many, and then whatever the noun is, como Annabelle. Let's change it to Annabelle. So S has as many as A, and those are just their initials. So let's say we're talking about computadoras. So she has as many computers as Annabelle. Okay, so remember way back at the beginning of Spanish, we learned that nouns have to match in gender and number with the articles and with the adjectives. Well, this is the same thing here. This word, tanto, has to agree in gender, is it male or female? And it also has to match in singular and number, singular or plural. So we take our noun, we say, is it singular? Is it female or male? It's male, it's female because it ends with an A. And is it singular or plural? It's plural because it ends with an S. Okay, well, which version of this is female plural? Tantas. So we know that our answer here is going to be tantas because we're comparing what thing? Computadoras. Computadoras. Notice the similarity there. Now, as you know, sometimes we have nouns that we just have to know if they're male or female, and we have a couple exceptions like dia, manos, mapa. So just be careful on those. Remember that those are some exceptions when we're matching gender and number. Let's do one more with the nouns. Let's say Sarah has as many coches como Annabelle. All right, so again, remember our structure as in that picture that I showed you was tantos, tanta, tanto, and so on, plus the noun plus como. All right, so we've got our noun placed in there. So here we need to pick out which one matches coches. So this one we just have to know it's male from previous usage. It's male, and is it singular or plural? It's plural. Okay, what form of this is male plural? Tantos. So again, this is matching this, right? just like up here, tantas matched this. Male, plural, female, plural, and so on. All right, that is when we're talking about nouns. We're comparing nouns that there are as many of this as there are of this object. People, place, and things. All right, let's change it. Let's go back to our chart here and take a look at it one more time. We had verb plus tanto como. Verb plus tanto como. Okay, so here we're talking about doing something. We're comparing the actions of someone. Let's see if I can get that to get off of my screen. Nope, it's not going to move. Okay, well, I wanted to try something new and I tried it. That's what you get. All right, so we are comparing verb plus tanto como. I'm gonna highlight. I'm gonna put a little box around this. This is not going to change. This is going to stay together whenever we are talking about how somebody does something. I'm sorry, action that somebody does. When we're talking about an action, a verb, the tanto como is not going to separate. This is your structure. Okay, so it's verb plus tanto como, almost like it's one word there. So let's put our people into action here. Who do we have? Sarah. Let's say she runs, and we conjugate our verb according to Sarah. Sarah runs. There's my verb, right? What do I put after that? Tanto como. Am I going to separate those two words? No, because I'm comparing the action right now. I'm not comparing a noun. I'm comparing a verb, an action. Tanto como Annabelle. Okay, how about if Sarah eats as much as? Again, this isn't going to change. This is probably the easiest one out of all the formulas here of the grammar structures. So because it doesn't move around, it doesn't change. There's no other, there's no exceptions here. It doesn't change genders. It's always tanto como. It doesn't change according to number. Remember our verbs, we don't match gender and number to those. And as you can see, we don't do that with tanto. So there you go. All right, let's talk about the next one. That was comparing how somebody does something. And the last group